So I'm really excited to be here today, and since this is my first talk on DLD, I will just introduce myself and tell a little bit about what I do. So 5 years ago, I created a website which grew into the largest social network in Russia and Ukraine and some other countries. The company is called VK right now, and it is the largest social network, like I said, according to Comscore. And as you can see, we are one of the reasons why Facebook is not doing too well in Russia. So the other name of the company is VKontakte, as it's sometimes pronounced on the West. But the international brand is VK. So we have 33 million daily unique visitors. And we've been growing very fast lately. You can see this New Year celebration in Russia by this graph. And it's probably one of the reasons why we banned advertisements promoting alcoholic beverages on our network. Because you see this kind of embarrassing. So 33 million daily unique visitors, about 70 million monthly actives, and maybe 160 million registered users. So Comscore says we are the fourth most viewed website among Europeans, which is pretty good. And you can see that there are 5 top sites there, and you have 3 American companies and 3 European companies, and apparently we could do much better. So Europe, we can do a lot more to improve this. I think that's about it. That's the last slide I have on VK, because it's not really the reason I came here today. So we tried hard to find a metric in which VK would be the first one. And Comscore come to our rescue, and you get this absolute leader in user engagement in Europe slide. And obviously we are the most efficient tool in wasting your time. So if you want to lose more time than you already do, feel free to join. Yeah. So let's switch to the main topic of our meeting today. It's Wikipedia. Why I think that Wikipedia is important? First of all, unlike VK, which is a financially, it's a profitable product, and it has a clear and predictable financial future. The financial future of Wikipedia is not that predictable. At the same time, Wikipedia is by far a much more important web service for the global community, and it is always underestimated. I think that Wikipedia is arguably the most important digital project created so far by humankind, and I will try to prove this idea. So I realized that Wikipedia may be more important than we are used to think when I saw that 7 out of 10 times I search something on the internet, I end up looking on a Wikipedia article. So 70% of my Google searches bring me to Wikipedia. And then goes this question, why? Why does that happen? It happens obviously because Wikipedia contains a lot of structured and objective information. That's exactly that you are searching for on the internet. That's what you want to get. And then it occurred to me that there are different, not every web project is like that. There are different kind of web projects, and some of them aim at collecting and structuring information, while the other ones are doing a lot to facilitate human communication, interaction between individuals. And then there's a whole range of web services in between. Some of them are concerned about gathering information. Some of them are only about communication. And on this slide, you see the web services on the right that don't store, don't accumulate widely useful information, while the services on the left, they do this. And the services on the left, they grow more and more important and more useful as times go by, and they accumulate more and more widely useful and searchable information. And sure, you have some websites in between, like Facebook, which is basically about communication, but at the same time it has a vast database of profiles and social graph and interest graph and so on. And then there's another metric with which we can compare web projects. But last thing I want to say about this slide is that the projects on the left tend to be more robust and more long-term, because the ones on the right are often prone to fashion. You can use one instant messaging today, one instant messaging system today, and then switch to some other instant messaging tomorrow. But those on the left, they're more long-term. They're more important. And then, this is funny, I call it grid access. Well, the grid access doesn't mean that the more greedy you get, the more profitable you become. In most cases, it's the other way around. But I put some social networks in here because social networking is something that I'm involved in. And you see classmates.com at the top, one of the first social networks, but it was so greedy that it charged its users for sending private messages, and eventually it came to decline. And then you have StudiVZ, a very famous German social network that came to decline for approximately the same reasons. There were many factors at play, but they were too hard on advertisements, and users become less loyal to them. But why is it important to be more altruistic and less greedy? It's important because most web services rely on user-generated information. And since user-generated information is so important for them, users must not feel offended, they must not feel used by the service. They must feel that the service cares about them. So greediness is something that the grid access is how the users perceive the platform, as greedy or as not greedy. You see that Google Plus, it doesn't actually have any advertisements right now, so it's the most altruistic this year. And so when we combine the grid access and the information communication access, we can get some interesting results. So these are some examples that I found. You can see communication information as X and altruism as Y. And what you can see here is that Wikipedia is on the right upper position, which I think is the best sport if we talk about how long this project will survive and how long it will live. Why do I think so? I think that altruism is important for a project to be long-term, and we could see this by looking at classmates.com or StudiVZ or MySpace. And I think that communication information is also important for a project to be robust. So Wikipedia is basically in the best spot here. And the last thing I wanted to say about it is that humanity, well, there's a theory that humanity is different from the rest of the biosphere with its, because of its ability to transfer its knowledge to the next generation. That's the most distinguishing trait that makes us evolve as a species throughout the last maybe 20,000 years. We don't evolve biologically, but we evolve culturally, scientifically, in terms of data we accumulate. And Wikipedia is probably the best effort so far to accumulate the knowledge of humanity on a large scale throughout the widest range of sources. And Wikipedia thus could be regarded as the memory section of the global brain phenomenon, which my friend and partner Yuri Milner likes to talk about. So since Wikipedia is a part of this global brain phenomenon, and since Wikipedia is here for a long time, I think we underestimate its importance. We often take it for granted, but really Wikipedia is more vulnerable than we used to think, and since it does a lot for us, I think it would be good to do a lot for Wikipedia. And I think that I could start by saying that I'm personally ready to donate $1 million to Wikipedia, and I hope that Jimmy and the board will approve this decision and accept the donation. Come on. Thank you. I appreciate this, thank you. But the reason I came here today, the reason I traveled from St. Petersburg today, by the way, it's my first public appearance and my first conference. I didn't feel the need to do this before. Thank you. Is that I think that, well, there are a lot of, obviously there are a lot of successful people here who could do a lot more for Wikipedia, because, you know, Wikipedia is doing more for example, for education system. We talked yesterday about education system a lot, but I feel that Wikipedia does more to educate young people and middle-aged people and elderly people than some of the governments of the world. So I don't think it's really fair what is happening right now when Wikipedia has to take contributions throughout several months in a year, and the situation could be improved. And so I really call for action here, that we support Wikipedia in a broader way than we did before. Thank you.
It's the first time at DLD we have action at this point. Really, it's very impressive. I think, Jimmy, you would like to comment also and give an update on the Wikipedia situation.
Great. I guess, very good. I guess my first question for you, though, before I have anything to say, is how old are you?
Well, 27.
27. I remember when I was 27. I wasn't giving anybody $1 million. Amazing. So, well, obviously, we've had a very interesting week in the past week with the global Wikipedia blackout, which ended up being a massive success. Thank you. It's actually interesting when we think about your axis there of where we sit in the whole internet ecosphere. It's really a very special place, I think, and it's one of the things that has allowed our community to take this kind of action. One of the things about Wikipedia and the Wikipedia community is that we do view our mission a bit more broadly than just Wikipedia itself. We're part of the culture, and we also want to defend the parts of the culture that enabled and empowered Wikipedia and all of the other great sources from the internet to actually happen. We think that's very important. But also because we are a nonprofit, our decision-making to take an action like this is very, very different from any other organization. It was not, this decision was not taken in a top-down way. I can only take credit for having the idea and proposing it to the community, after which an enormous conversation happened that culminated in a vote of the community that was overwhelmingly in favor of taking this action. But because we are in this space where we exist from donations, we didn't have to have that agonizing decision that you might have to have about what is this going, you know, are we going to give up all our revenue for one day? You know, if you are a company like Google, who obviously does also very deeply care about openness on the internet and so forth, you still have shareholders, you still have a very large infrastructure to pay for, and for Google to go black for a day would cost them an enormous amount of money. One reporter asked me, well, gee, how much revenue do you think you'll lose because of this day? And I just, the question had never even occurred to me to think about, that we just don't think in those terms. And B, if I do stop to think about it, I think the net impact on our revenue, of course, would be positive, because one of the reasons people donate to Wikipedia is because we are this principled organization that stands for openness and knowledge and so forth, and this was a meaningful thing to have done. So I think, you know, being in this spot, it gives us the ability to do things like that, but also I think a responsibility to be there. For a lot of people, they thought, wow, this is amazing. Wikipedia has never been at all political before, but I think they didn't notice that we've always been a little bit political in some subtle ways. So for example, back in the day when Google decided to compromise in China, that was when it really became obvious to me that we could not. And so we never compromised with censorship in China. We've always spoken out against it. We speak out against censorship anywhere in the world. And if it starts to come home in the US and somebody wants to set up a new law that's going to filter DNS, we're going to say, no, that's not something that's okay with us. So it is a wonderful thing to be in this space where we are. So it's great.
Great. I think any web project is on the net is grateful for Wikipedia to take a stand, you know, in saying this. But from the part of our company, I must admit that United States laws don't affect us, and the other thing, we don't really have any problems with the copyright in Russian legal system. So, but obviously it would affect us in some future if this law was taken. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's interesting here is I think there's two ways that law in the U.S. can affect people in other places. You know, one way is this law was specifically aimed at foreign, from the U.S. perspective, websites. And in fact, you know, I had several people in the UK say, well, why should we care about this? And I said, well, for example, the UK startup industry should care about this almost more than anybody else, because they're doing startups in English that instead of being subject to the DMCA takedown and notice provisions, you could be subject to these provisions instead, which get your website completely shut down very quickly, or at least you lose financial access to the US market very quickly. It can be very dangerous for people overseas. In fact, I felt like there was a little bit of short-sighted misunderstanding. If you think about it, if you think of a company like Google, if Google were a strictly mercenary company, they might say, this is a great idea because it's going to cut out loads of competition all around the world. It's a great way for Facebook to go after vContact, for example. So why isn't Facebook in favor of it? I think it's because these companies realize the second thing, which is US law will inspire changes to law elsewhere. And if we have poorly designed laws that don't actually solve the problems they're meant to solve, but put up all of these regulatory barriers, it's bad for the entire industry, it's bad for the general public, and so forth. So, you know, we can't think of the internet as being, oh, well, that's, you know, everything is global now. What happens in one country affects all the countries, particularly with respect to internet regulation.
Absolutely.
So it's great. So what should we do next? It's really interesting because when I'm looking around, you know, people are saying, well, would you ever do this again? And I say, well, I hope not. I don't think so. But then you begin to realize some of the other laws that are out there. Right now, one of the things that a lot of people are raising concerns about is ACTA, which is you should go and read about it. It's one of these typical treaty kinds of things. It's been negotiated under lots of secrecy. It's now being signed by different countries. The European Parliament has an opportunity to say no to it, and I hope that they will. Different individual countries have the opportunity to say no along the way. I have a feeling it's been signed by the U.S., but that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot because it hasn't been approved by the Congress. So it's been signed and it is a certain negotiating phase. But if legislation is needed to implement it in the U.S., they're going to have to go to the U.S. Congress. And I have a feeling that after the beating we gave them last week, they're not going to be interested in doing anything for a year or so. But that's just one example. Another example, there's a law that's being proposed. It's made it through committee, and it will come to the House floor. And of course, this is a law about child predators and about child pornography. So this is a very serious issue. Unfortunately, it's such a serious and real issue that people do feel very strongly about, and for good reasons, that oftentimes logic goes out the window. And so this law was proposing massive record-keeping requirements for US ISPs. They want to track everything. And as somebody pointed out, if you think, well, okay, yeah, it's good, why don't we keep more records? Remember that we live in an era of the hacking group Anonymous and WikiLeaks. And how many of you would like to have your browsing records stolen from your ISP and posted on the internet? That could be very painful to people and could easily happen. And so mandating that we keep more and more records on people is probably a very bad idea, even if we think, gee, this problem of abuse of children is one that deserves serious attention. So I think we're going to have to be very, very vigilant going forward. And one of the things that I hope to see is now, at least I hope, there's a window of opportunity here for Hollywood to come to the table and talk to Silicon Valley with a little bit more humility, to know that actually we appreciate, when we see Rupert Murdoch on Twitter claiming that Google is a pirate and leading the pirate movement, it's nonsense. It's completely insane. And when you've got people on the other side thinking they can get away with statements like that, we're not close to actually having a discussion about the real issues. Now there may be an opportunity to say, look, this is not our movement. We have no reason to defend piracy at all. I have no interest in piracy. I have to confess, actually, how ignorant I am about some of these things. I had never in my life even heard of Mega Upload even once. I had no idea. Apparently, it's very popular. But now we have this opportunity to say, look, I think people say, look, we do want to deal, if there are serious criminal organizations engaging in large-scale piracy, and it's an actual serious problem, then let's start to deal with that. But let's deal with that in ways that don't involve censoring the internet, that don't involve these sort of ridiculous and technologically incompetent ideas. Let's actually have a serious conversation about what to do about some of these problems. And I think we have that opportunity now, and we should take it.
Good.
It was. I just have to say one thing. I think that, and if anybody wants to report, here's a nice headline. Jimmy Wales says Christopher Dodd should be fired by the MPAA, and I'll tell you why. In the heat of all of this, the first thing that he said that I thought was fairly outrageous is he talked about Wikipedia's action, and he called it an abuse of power. 10 million people apparently contacted Congress, 10 million voters, actually 14 million people, 10 million voters contacted Congress. That is not an abuse of power, that's democracy, and he had best get used to it. The second thing that he said, he had this really lovely statement he made where he says to congressmen on television, he was on Fox News, and he said something to the effect, you can look up the exact quote of, when your job is at risk and we wrote you a check, now our job is at risk, you better stand up for us. In other words, we paid for this Congress and they're not doing your jobs for us. This is disgusting. And it actually diminishes, from the perspective of the MPAA, if you are a member organization of the MPAA and this is your public representative who's making you look like a corrupt Congress-buying organization in front of the general public, you are not being an effective lobbyist. You are not solving the problems that the MPAA hired you to solve.
You know, it's funny. I learned yesterday that 30 years ago, MPAA was objecting VCR, video cassette recording. The head of MPAA said that VCR would destroy the movie industry and that it would result in a huge loss of jobs throughout the US. But as we know, video cassette industry wielded huge profits to this industry, to movie makers. And so is the internet. It may seem as a disruptive technology, but this disruptive technology will eventually result in creating more profit for movie makers in case they learn how to use it.
So let me just talk about that for a second, because I am a person who, I am sympathetic to the problems that people face. If you've just spent $100 million making a movie and you realize it's all over the internet for free, this is upsetting. This is an actual problem. But here's my story. My daughter, who is 11 years old and is a super awesome super geek, had never seen Star Wars. And so I realized I was being a very bad parent, having not watched Star Wars with her. And so I got it for her for Christmas. I bought it in the UK. I bought her Blu-ray DVDs because I've got a nice Blu-ray compatible player. But we were gonna watch it. I was flying her back home to where she lives in Florida, and we were gonna watch it on the plane. Turns out her computer doesn't have a Blu-ray player in it. All right. Well, I already paid for it, but I don't mind. I'll pay again. So I went on to iTunes to buy the first movie. I was gonna pay a second time because, I mean, I've met George Lucas, and he doesn't have enough money. I'll pay a second time. I don't mind. I pay. I go on to iTunes. It's not available on iTunes. Furthermore, I know as soon as she gets it home to her mother's house in America, she won't be able to play it because it's a region-encoded DVD. So basically, we're screwed. We can't watch what I paid for, and I'm willing to pay for a second time. I'm sitting here trying to figure out what to do. I go online to see if I can figure out a way. And of course, you wonder, why is my 11-year-old daughter looking at me like, Dad, you know, why don't you go on Mega Uploads? She didn't say that. She doesn't know about Mega Uploads either. But if you want to know, you know, if you think about this concept, digital distribution platform is an incredible opportunity for the entertainment industry and for Hollywood. And one of the first things they can do is actually let me buy what I want to buy. I have friends in Israel who... I had a friend in Israel who was, you know, moaning about the death of Mega Uploads because she said she uses it to watch, I think she said House, which I've never seen, but... And I said, oh, well, can you get it on iTunes? And she said, they don't sell it. Like, there is no choice. So here's somebody who's saying, not saying, oh, I don't want to spend that much money for it. This is somebody who's saying, well, I mean, if they would put it on iTunes, I would buy it. And then people are turning apart. So the first step that Hollywood can do is say, why don't you actually try to make some money on the internet? There's a lot of money to be made that you're leaving on the table by being so obstinate. But I do think, though, I think it is easy for us on our side to say, oh, you are against the VCR, you are against cassette tapes, you've been against these things and you end up making lots of money, so now you're against the internet and we're just going to ignore you because you've been wrong before. I think that is a tempting approach, but I think that we also have to say, look, they do face serious real problems. And if we don't listen to their real problems, they won't listen to our real problems. I do think that there are solutions here that are not that complicated. You know, the Mega Uploads case does show that the law can go after these people. Does the law need to be tweaked in various ways? Sure. But do we need a draconian new regime? Absolutely not. So, okay.